the years, I've made a tradition of hiking the Narrows on my first full day in Zion. Today marked my 7th time hiking up the frigid waters of the Virgin River. That may seem a bit excessive, especially for a hike that's an out and back with very few opportunities to explore off the beaten path. However, the Narrows is a hike that rewards perseverance. Sections that may seem mundane one minute can come alive with reflected light the next. The only way to discover the light is to return time after time and experience it for yourself. Although I've become very familiar with each bend in the river, that familiarity has not dulled my sense of wonder as I hike through the narrow chasm of towering sandstone. Today's hike began like so many of the others. Despite having to take the shuttle, I still managed to be the first person to hit the water. My goals for the day were simple: scout out the reflected light for new compositions, and to reshoot an image on film that I took with a digital camera several years ago. Early in the hike, I came across a set of cascades leading downriver that I thought would make an interesting black and white image. I unloaded my gear, composed, and then pushed a sheet of HP5 one stop to accentuate movement in the water. After shooting, I repacked and continued on. After only a few hundred yards, I came across a familiar location with a stunning glow that I had never noticed before. Although the light was spectacular, I spent quite some time convincing myself that I needed to photograph it. I find it very difficult to get motivated to unload my pack again so soon after repacking it. I stared at the beautiful light for what seemed like an eternity, while the mental battle raged on. Eventually, I would remember that this is a photography trip, and I went through the entire setup routine again. Composing was a difficult puzzle to solve as I struggled to find a compelling foreground in the river. Unable to find anything, I hoped that the striated wall on the right and the descending trees on the left would combine to draw the viewer into the image. As there were 6 stops of dynamic range in the scene, I exposed 2 sheets of Ektar to make sure I retained enough details in both the shadows and highlights. After shooting, I quickly packed again and moved on. I would need to reach my 3rd shooting location by noon for the best light. In addition to the light, my work today would all have to be completed in the morning, as strong winds were predicted for the afternoon. With shutter speeds often extending to several minutes, wind absolutely shuts down any photography. Setup for this shot was very simple, as I knew exactly how I wanted to shoot it. At this point in the day, I had to wait for quite some time for people to clear, as the Narrows had become quite crowded. Normally, other hikers are a non-issue as long shutter speeds render them invisible. However, a 1-second exposure on black and white film meant I had to wait until everything was clear. I exposed 2 sheets of both Ektar and HP5 with slightly different compositions. It seemed strange to be exhausted after only 4 compositions, 2 of which were merely 10 feet apart, but at this point I was both physically and creatively spent. Part of me was glad when the wind finally arrived and signaled an end to the day. looking too healthy. Get it on film. I actually took 2 compositions on it. A color one that emphasized that slit in the background, and then a black and white one moved just a bit to the left.